إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع الهدى. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters in Islam, welcome back to another hadith discussion, which we are reviewing and summarizing and doing some brief commentary on the book Hidden Defects in Prophetic Narrations, Al-Kashkul fi Dhikr al-Hadith al-Ma'lul, Notes and Benefits from Ahlul Hadith. And this is an advanced Hadith studies book, which would be very beneficial to those studying in Islamic schools, Islamic universities, when you are studying Mustalah Hadith or the sciences of Hadith. So we encourage all of our brothers and sisters to get your copy today. We have the information available here. You can visit us online at www.imacd.org, and you can email us if you're interested in purchasing a copy at info@imacd.org. And you can also support our dawah efforts via a Cash App. And if you're looking for another avenue to support our dawah, then please reach out to us via a email. So moving on, in our final discussion of this book here, we want to summarize and conclude with some advice to the students of Hadith and the students of knowledge. We want to take all of that theoretical knowledge and information that we just took, the different principles, the different techniques about how to discover hidden defects, and we want to actually practice it. Now we want the students of knowledge to go back to their libraries, go back to the bookstores and purchase some of these books that we mentioned in these discussions. Start off with the Kutub as-Sitta, start off with the small books of Hadith and start memorizing these Hadith, the Matun. Familiarize yourself with the names of the companions, their brief biographies, when they were born, when they died, some of their fada'il, their virtues. Then move on to the generation of the Tabi'een. Then move on through the chains of narration, familiarizing yourself with some of the books of Rijal. So the student of knowledge in our day and time should realize and understand that we as students of knowledge may never be able to attain the same level of knowledge of the earlier scholars of Hadith. That we can strive upon their path and strive upon their methodology and strive upon their minhaj, but we will never be able to attain the same level of knowledge of the earlier scholars of Hadith. And one of the main reasons behind that is because they lived with the narrators. They lived with those narrators who they knew how frequent they would go to the masjid. They knew their trade. They knew their profession. They knew how strong their memories were. They lived with the narrators that they criticized and praised. And even many of the books that were available then, we don't find that they have reached us today. Some of them are still in manuscript form in maybe some of the libraries of Timbuktu and some of the libraries in Turkey. Even in some of the universities here in the United States of America, there are Arabic manuscripts. Some copies of manuscripts that cannot be found anywhere else in the world, you find here in America. I remember visiting one of our teachers, one of the great scholars who had a very deep knowledge and understanding of Arabic manuscripts. Sheikh Uzair al-Shams, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, who was in Mecca. And we had many meetings with the Sheikh and many benefits from the Sheikh's insight and knowledge. I remember on one occasion, he actually mentioned to me, he said there are some copies of manuscripts of Majmu' Fatawa by Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah that are in America that cannot be found anywhere else in the world. SubhanAllah. So the reason why we can't reach the level of the scholars of the past is because, as I said, many of them lived with the narrators that they criticized, and many of the books and manuscripts that they had at their time are not available in our time. But this doesn't mean that the student of hadith and the student of knowledge should not constantly strive and to be like them and to tread upon their path in seeking knowledge. Even if we cannot reach that same level of knowledge that they attained, but at least we can be on their path. As it is said, tashabbahu an lam takunu mithlahum inna tashabbahu bil kirami falahu. Resemble the scholars if you cannot be like them or attain their level, because in resembling those scholars, the noble people, is all success. And those who strive and tread upon the path that seek knowledge, we know the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the path to paradise will be made easy for them, that the ants underneath the ground will ask Allah for forgiveness for that one treading on the path to seek knowledge and seek knowledge of the Sunnah, knowledge of Hadith, knowledge of the Quran, knowledge of fiqh. So the student of Hadith and the disciple of the Sunnah should appreciate the hard work that Ahlul Hadith, the scholars of Hadith, put forth to preserve the Sunnah. And part of showing that appreciation is respecting them, honoring them, studying their books, and conveying and teaching their techniques and principles to others. And as we previously mentioned, there are practical techniques that can aid us in understanding what the muhaddithin said about hidden defects in a hadith. So we want to summarize these hadith discussions with a few practical steps that can aid the student of hadith and the disciple of the Sunnah to train himself how to benefit from the statements of scholars, how to investigate the different narrations and research the Sunnah in hopes that they are beneficial to them. First, as we mentioned, is mastering the principles of the sciences of hadith, mastering mustalah hadith. And those sciences of hadith used to determine whether the hadith is acceptable or not acceptable, whether it's sahih or da'if or mawdu' or hasan li ghayrihi or makdhub. And this is from two aspects. First, understanding, memorizing, and thinking about the theoretical aspects of the sciences of hadith. Okay, all of these discussions that we had, it's talking about the theoretical aspects and tools and techniques and principles that the student of hadith needs. Then the second aspect is the practical implementation of these sciences. Second tip is for the student of hadith to master the science of jarh wa ta'dil, understanding the status of narrators generally and specifically, knowing the narrator's status from certain shuyukh, their tabaqa, and knowing his status in certain places. When he was in Basra or when he was in Medina, which place was he stronger? Which place was his narration stronger? And knowing their shuyukh and their students, and knowing the dates of birth and death, and knowing who they heard from and who they didn't hear from. Next tip is reading and studying the books of ilal that give practical examples and explain the examples, such as ilal ad-Daraqutni. And when practically studying the book of ilal ad-Daraqutni, one should stop at every chain and every hadith and ponder as to why. Why is one chain stronger than the next chain? That's when you have to have the book of ilal open in front of you, then have your books of rijal open in front of you as well. So why is one chain stronger than the next chain? And also, we encourage the student of hadith to try to discover the means and other factors that allow one to consider one chain to be stronger than the next. And this is one of the best techniques in building the student of knowledge and training him to discover and clarify hidden defects. So some of the practical steps, and I hope that all of you have a paper and pen to record this down, is first and most importantly is to do the takhrij of the hadith, is to reference the hadith back to its origin. And while doing so, gathering all the chains of narration for that hadith. Secondly, making a chain, making a tree. Okay, making a tree with all of the different chains of narration. All of the tabi'een who narrated the hadith from the same companion, then observe the differences and wordings of the hadith, the chains, the different statuses of the narrators from the same tabaqat. Thirdly, separating the chains of narration and texts based upon their differences and their agreement. Next step, the hadith that there is discrepancy in regards to it being marfu' or marquf, and there is additional wording or deficient wording in it as well. So separate all the marfu' hadith, all the ones that are raised to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in one division or one side of the worksheet or document, then all of the mawquf in another division. And the hadith that have additional wording together and the ones that contain deficient wording or less wording in the text together as well. So all the hadith that have additional wording, gather those together, and all the hadith that contain deficient wording or less words in another category. And another important aspect of this, the practical steps of researching hadith and the sciences of hadith, is finding the madar, the source, or the narrator from whom the hadith spread to other later narrators who came after him. Which narrator did the hadith revolve around, and where did it spread out to other narrators? Nextly, knowing the maratib, knowing the different levels of precision and accuracy and religiosity of the narrators. Thiqa, suduq, da'if, and the levels of mulazama, the different levels of mulazama to their shuyukh. Did they stay with their sheikh for a long time or short time? Was their memory top level, or was it level 2 or 3? And knowing the tabaqat. And lastly is trying to understand the comments of the scholars and masters of hadith, and trying to figure out why they gave preference to certain narrators over others, or why did they consider the mawquf narration over the mawsul, or the mursal over the marfu'. And this is done by gathering up all the speech of the scholars about the specific narrator. So when observing the differences in the chains or the text, it is important to keep in mind the following manifestations of differences. First, it could be that all of the different chains of narration and versions of different wordings of the hadith are all authentic. That's first. Second thing, only one version of the hadith narrated from one chain and all the rest are incorrect. Or a few versions could be correct and some are incorrect. The differences and the discrepancies in the ahadith could be so difficult to come to a conclusion that one is not able to consider one to be stronger than the next, which is called al-idtirab. So some practical tips and advices for the student of hadith in regards to the status of a particular hadith or narrator. First, if we find that the great scholars of ilal, such as Abu Zur'a, such as Abu Hatim, Ali ibn al-Madini, Imam al-Bukhari, Yahya ibn Ma'in, ad-Daraqutni, have agreed upon the status of a hadith, then the student of knowledge should not ignore, nor should they ever disregard their speech, and highly consider it when they consider about making a ruling or conveying a ruling of the hadith. Number two, if we find that these previously mentioned scholars differed in regards to the status of a hadith and its defect, then if one has the ability, if the student of knowledge, the student of hadith has the ability to determine whose statement is stronger based upon proofs and evidences, then let him do so from using the statements of the scholars before him. But if he doesn't have the ability, then he should not delve into the affair and just follow one of the previous scholars. So you should not, and what was a practice of Sheikh Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani, rahimahullah, as is ascribed to him, is that he would never invent a new statement about a hadith or about an ilal or about a narrator, that there would always be somebody who preceded him in making a particular ruling upon a hadith or narrator. So similarly, the student of hadith, they should not try to invent a new statement about a hadith which has already been researched and already been talked about or criticized or praised previous to his research and prior to his studying. And thirdly, okay, this is where the student of hadith, the student of knowledge, may be able to do some ijtihad. If we don't find except one scholar speaking about the hadith and no one differed with him, but then we find that after researching the hadith that he may have been mistaken, then we could voice our opinion regarding it. And this is only for the advanced student of hadith who's mastered all the sciences of hadith and not the beginner. For example, one finds a scholar saying this hadith is munkar because the narrator is weak and he narrated it alone. Then the student researches and finds that the narrator is thiqah and that the evidence for calling the narrator weak is not valid, and comes across statements from other scholars who say the narrator is thiqah as well. And when the previous scholar said that the hadith is munkar because the narrator is weak, he didn't go into specifics as to why his narrations were weak. So the student of knowledge has the ability to do some ijtihad in regarding certain hadith and certain areas. So then in that occasion or that circumstance, then the student could differ with that one scholar who spoke about the hadith. So we hope, brothers and sisters, that this book review, this summary, this commentary upon the compilation Al-Kashku fi Dhikr al-Hadith al-Ma'lul, the notes of Ahl al-Hadith, of how to discover hidden defects in prophetic narrations. We hope that this was beneficial to all, and we hope that it enables us to truly love, honor, and respect the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, respect his sunnah, and respect and honor those who dedicated their lives to studying the sunnah, researching the sunnah, protecting the sunnah, and teaching the sunnah to others. Well, and all praises are due to Allah, and may peace and blessings be sent upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his relatives, his wives, and all of those who follow him until the day of resurrection. So, as we mentioned, for anyone who is interested in receiving a copy of this book or purchasing a copy of this book, you can visit us online at www.imacd.org or email us at info@imacd.org and receive your copy. The copies are currently available for sale for $19.99, and that includes free shipping within the United States of America. And our staff and our research committee is also looking to make the book available on Amazon. But we do have several copies still available in our warehouse, and we are looking forward for all of you to reach out to us. And we also encourage all of you to keep supporting our dawah efforts, to enable our researchers, to enable our scholars, our imams, to keep putting forth beneficial books for the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also dawah books as well. So with that, we will conclude, and thank you for joining us in our hadith discussion. And until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.